Hi everyone, this is Luke Daniel with Harry Daniel Insurance. I am here today with Joe Cochran, who is the head of our private client practice and also does personalized insurance here at Harry Daniel Insurance. So Joe, excited to talk to you today. Can you explain to the folks at home what is private client and what does that mean?
Yeah. So private client insurance essentially is just personalized insurance for high net worth individuals, highly successful families that have done really well and need to do an in-depth review of their personal insurance.
Mm-hmm. When you look at your book of business and you talk about the private client side of your business, what are some of the net worths for some of your customers? Can you give me a range, some of your larger customers?
I'd say there's a big portion that's 1 to 3 million, a little bit less that's probably 3 to 10 million, and then a handful of clients that are 50 to 60, even $100 million net worth.
What are some of the largest misconceptions in this space for insuring high net worth customers?
I think some of the largest misconceptions is I've got an umbrella, so I'm good. I just recently worked on an account with a guy that's worth $50 million that actually had no umbrella. He only had $100,000 worth of liability coverage. His $5 million home was only insured for $3 million. So there's a lot of misconceptions on, hey, I've done my due diligence, so my policy covers me well, and that's not always the case.
What are some other coverage gaps that you see in the high net worth space?
Yeah, some huge coverage gaps that I see are no water backup coverage, and it always seems like a small, minute detail that's missed, but people can be in a $2 or $3 million house and they have coverage for if the roof leaks or if a pipe bursts, but most of these families are big families. They have young kids, and if a toilet or a sink or some sort of pipe backs up and causes damage, there could be $0 of coverage for that.
Wow, and a lot of people think they're fully covered for something like that.
They think they're fully covered, yeah.
Wow, goodness. If you needed to advise anyone who's watching this video and maybe they're high net worth and you just wanted to give them one piece of advice, what would you say to them?
I'd say be open with your agent. The biggest takeaway that I have seen is most people are wanting to withhold information, or they think that it will hurt them to say, hey, this is what I have, or this is how much I'm paying. And some of the best conversations that I've had is just talking with someone like they're my buddy, just asking how their life is, what the problems they've had with their current program, what are their hobbies. There's just having that intentional conversation typically uncovers a lot of the gaps that I'm looking for. I think there's an old wives' tale that you know if you tell your insurance agent more, he's just going to charge you more, and that's not really the case. I want to be able to advise you. If you're going to trust me as your agent, I want to be able to give you the best advice that I possibly can, and if I'm only working with 50% of the information, I can't really do that.
That makes a lot of sense. So Joe, you talked about working with financial advisors. Why is this an important part of your strategy and your book of business?
Yeah, so for me, working with advisors gives me an area to add value to someone else. I think a lot of partners in our industry are very much, hey, I give you this, you give me that. But when I can go in and talk to an advisor and say, hey, here's where these gaps are in your book of business and your clients, here's what we can do for you, no strings attached. You know, you can do insurance with us, they can do insurance with someone else, but we want to offer this to you as a value added proposition. I think that gives us a very harmonious relationship that we can work really well with their clients.
What are some mistakes that you see our industry making with clients and high net worth successful families?
From what I've seen, the two biggest mistakes that most agents make is one, spending out of their own pocket, and two, just not having in-depth conversations.
What do you mean spending out of their own pocket?
I think this policy is expensive, so I'm scared to present it to this client when we don't know what's expensive to them. So if I can advise someone on, hey, this umbrella policy, it's large and it's going to be expensive, but you have no personal liability coverage right now, they may be willing to spend 10 grand where I might not want to spend $100.
So Joe, why should someone work with you or work with someone like you?
Yeah, so just based on what we've done with our commercial book and how buttoned up you've done on the commercial side, that's the same thing that we do on the personal side. And there's so many of these large big box name insurance companies that have big advertising budgets, but they're not really niching in high net worth, and that's what we do.
Awesome. Great. I love that. So backtracking a little bit, tell us how you got into the insurance space.
Funny enough, I met a random guy at the PGA store, and we just got to talking, and his brother owned an agency, and I saw my uncle here that owned an agency and my uncle out in Texas that owned one, and thought that they did really well and they had great relationships with their families, and I was like, well, I'd like to do something like that. And that was 6 or 7 years ago, and here we are today.
Awesome. And what drew you to coming to work at Harry Daniel?
So every time I was asking off at my other job was to either play golf or to hunt with the people that are here at the agency, and I figured if I'm going to spend all my time off with them, I might as well go work with them.
Heard that.
Yeah.
What motivates you to go deeper than the typical agents?
I think for me, most of the agents just don't have the conversation, and I like to talk to people. And so honestly, if I can just have a really good conversation with someone, there's been times where I'm friends with people that could be a client, are a client, may never be a client, and just seeking out those relationships and never knowing where it's going to lead. Honestly, I just like having those conversations.
Awesome. And what is one piece of advice that you would have to give to somebody to better protect their lifestyle?
I would just say be open with your agent. A lot of times people withhold information, and our job here is to advise and to be a professional risk management for them. And if they don't tell us, then I can't give you advice on it.
Awesome. So I would be remiss if we did not mention that you have just had a lifestyle event earlier in the year. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in your personal life right now.
Yeah, me and my wife had our first baby in January of this year, and it's been awesome. He's been around the agency quite a bit, maybe a little bit like you were when you were growing up here in the agency, and it's been an awesome experience. I have even more respect for my wife now, but it's really cool being a dad, and hopefully we'll have a new hunting buddy and a new golfing buddy here in the next few years.
I can't wait to get Arthur in the duck blind with me and teach him some good habits.
Yeah.
So Joe, if our future hunting buddy Arthur was watching this clip 10 years from now, what's some advice that you would want to give to him?
Yeah, I'd say if I've done my job the way that I hope to do it, and he's going to have big goals, I'm just going to tell him just to go after them. I think that a lot of times that we get bogged down by analysis paralysis, and that is definitely not me. So I think that we try, we fail, we adjust, and I think that that is something that he should adopt as well. There's nothing wrong with failing. That's how you're going to be successful.
So I know that is heartfelt advice from you, and I can honestly say you are the just do it guy out of all my friends. One of my favorite stories, I've got many stories, some are embarrassing, most are good or funny. One of my favorite Joe Cochran stories is you actually came to work here and worked for 2 weeks without knowing what you were going to be compensated. So you just took the job and came and bet on yourself. And so I think that that is a great way to wrap up this video, is just talking about how much you mean to our family and how much you mean to the agency. So pumped that we get to live life together and then also work together and spend more time together hunting and also doing insurance. And so I appreciate the work that you do for my clients and for the other clients here at the agency, and appreciate everything that you're about.
Yeah, well, it's an honor to work here and be with some close buddies and great co-workers as well.